Well, hello. David Taub here, coming to you from nextlevelguitar.com. What's up, good people? Hope all is well. I want to talk to you. I've been getting a flood of emails asking about guitar setups and what's involved with a guitar setup. So I thought I would go over some of the what adjustments you would be looking at when talking about a guitar. And if you want to study these more in depth, we'll eventually have modules on each one of these and how to go about adjusting it at our full-on website at nextlevelguitar.com. So I want to just talk briefly here about the adjustments involved on a guitar, and I have several different guitars here to show you the different adjustment points. The big thing to remember is that a guitar is like a machine. That's the way I look at it, that there's moving parts, and over time from playing them you're going to need to have your guitar reset up, what's called a setup. And a setup usually involves 5 or 6 different adjustments depending on the guitar. And those are the things I want to show you today. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to wheel the camera in close and show you some of these adjustment points up nice and close. One adjustment we're going to be talking about is called intonation. And the intonation on a guitar is you could set by these, in this Fender Stratocaster you have 6 different little Phillips head screws right here, one for each string. And what that does is that adjustment, if you tighten or loosen it, will move the string forward or back, making it in essence longer or shorter, because that moves this bridge saddle this way or this way, making the string a little bit shorter or longer. Intonation meaning that an E played open on your guitar should be the same note as an E on the 12th fret. Or, you know, whatever note you play as you play octaves or whatnot, all over the guitar those notes should be the same pitch. And over time your intonation might come out a little bit. So that's what those screws are. Another common adjustment on these guitars is the action. The action is the distance that the strings are off the fretboard. And that you would use a Phillips head screwdriver, an Allen wrench on these. I'm pointing to it with a Phillips head. On these little, there's 2 in this particular guitar, 2 Allen head little screws on each of these saddles, and that is going to let this saddle get lower or higher. So you're going to drop your action up or down, and that's a total feel thing. Some players like their action high, some people like it low. Depends on what you like. This is not a hardtail Stratocaster. This has a tremolo block which moves up and down with springs in the back. So there's a very common adjustment here which will actually raise or lower this block depending on your string gauge. If you have thicker strings, you're going to need, if you change your strings from like light to heavy gauge, blam, this is going to shoot way up because there's a lot more tension on the neck. So you're going to have to adjust the height of that, and you do that by these 2 Phillips screws right here. By tightening them into the body, that's going to pull this tremolo block down. And loosening them will let it up. So that's a very common thing on a lot of guitars, not just Fender. They have the tremolo block system with springs and with the 2 screws in the back here. Okay, so that's 3 very critical adjustments right here. Another thing you adjust on your guitar is the pickup height. Okay, that's on each side of these pickups there's 2 screws, so you can adjust how close the pickup gets to the string. Now, generally, the closer it is, it's going to sound a little bit more hotter, further away, less hot. You just have to be careful. You don't want to put the pickups too close to the string, because remember, these are magnetic, you know, and you don't want the string, if they're too close, to be hitting that pole piece there, and that's going to get like a buzz or make an unwanted noise. So that's your action adjustment, okay? Another thing Fender guitars have, later model Fenders, which is kind of cool, is what's called a micro tilt adjustment, and that's this little hole right here. And what that does is that tilts the neck this way or this way from the low point right here. To adjust that, you have to loosen up the 4 bolts that hold the neck to the body, and then that's an Allen head which pushes against the neck, which can tilt it back or forth, again giving you a little bit more control over the angle of the neck. That's kind of cool. A lot of late model Stratocasters have that adjustment. Telecasters too, I believe. That's micro tilt. And then another huge adjustment is your truss rod adjustment. And the truss rod adjustment is, there's a metal rod that runs through the neck of most guitars, acoustics also. And this rod, what happens is the adjustment point is either right up here, where you put an Allen wrench, or on some guitars And that a lot of times is covered up with a cover. But on some guitars, it's not there. You have to get it through down here at the bottom. There, you can adjust the truss rod. And the truss rod turns kind of like a cam. So your neck over time might start to bow, because remember, there's a tremendous amount of tension on these strings pulling on the neck, constantly wanting to make the neck do this. So occasionally you have to give it a quarter turn to straighten it, or again if you change string gauges. So basically, truss rod, pickup height, action, intonation, tremolo block height, those are your main adjustments. And some guitars differ a little bit as far as where these are at, but all basically the same. Here's a Paul Reed Smith, and you can see on this again, here are your Phillips head screws for your intonation, and it uses a small Allen head screw right here on the saddles for your action. Here's your screws for your pickup height, where you can adjust the pickup height, and it has a truss rod cover which you would remove to get to the truss rod. So many of the same adjustments. Here's a Gibson Les Paul, okay, and on this guitar, on the Gibsons, they have what's called, for the bridge, you can adjust the height up or down by loosening these and spinning them right here on this bridge, and this drops this whole bridge piece down or up, and that's a cool adjustment there. You can also adjust your intonation. The screws are in here. I don't know if you could see that, but this moves back and forth, this adjustment, by these little Allen head screws right here, and that will adjust the string back and forth on that. So, and also on the neck, here's your truss rod cover. Take that off, and you can adjust the truss rod. So those are the main adjustments on these type of electric guitars. And if you look on, if you have a different guitar, there should be something similar there. So remember, you want to have your guitar, and I can't tell you when, you know, I can't say we'll do it every 6 months. It all depends on how much you play, how hard you play, how often you're, you know, if you are playing out a lot, if your guitars are getting a lot of use. But you're going to want to reset up your guitar either yourself, or if you're not sure how to do it, bring it into a qualified service tech, and they could do a setup. Most cases would be around, they should include a new set of strings and checking the adjustments and fixing as necessary, 30 to 50 bucks, and well worth it, especially if you have a good guy to really get your guitars playing their best. Okay? And remember, if you change string gauges, got an email the other day, a guy emailed me, he says, I changed my string gauges. I went to this Jimi Hendrix set of strings, and I noticed now my bridge is way up in the air and it doesn't play as well. Well, because when you change gauges, especially there, he went to a thicker set, puts more tension on the neck, so it's going to do this, it's going to pull the bridge up, and you have to reset up your guitar for those gauges. Now, if you jump string gauges and bring your guitar in, they might charge you a little more for that setup because there's a little more work involved. All right? So if you want to study these adjustments in depth and how to do it, go to our website, nextlevelguitar.com. Eventually we'll have modules on all the setup adjustments, and email us any questions. Rock on. I'm David Taub, and you are the good people, and we will see you soon.